So this is what's going on today. I'm actually watching TV. You know, this is actually the first time I've had to do this. It's been about 5 years, 6 years, but this is the Manly MU, including a note, sending it back for service. Not because it's broke, but the thing, they pretty much make it clear and identify to you that it's going to need service. What we're doing to this is actually we are going to put a sidechain mod on it, which I think will be pretty invaluable to what we do. The sidechain mod will be a lot better for hip-hop mastering and stuff like that. The unit's been flawless. It costs money to keep up with this stuff, and I want people to understand that you know, equipment like this costs money. And you know, that's one of the things that even as a whole YouTube community of musicians, if there's a lot of musicians on YouTube, I mean, you know there is, but you gotta take these things serious and realize that this stuff costs money, and I hate to say it again because I want to get made fun of. It costs money. And how many times is this guy gonna say it costs money? You know, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Manly MU. Let me walk upstairs and I'll show you the rack and we'll go into that. And man, is that TV commercial annoying. But that's sort of like an insurance policy there. You know, I do that sometimes just to have the insurance policy. Yes, I did own it, lady. I got a video of it. Phantom X8. We haven't been using it much. I mean, I'm more of a mixing engineer. I was in mixing a beat last night. And when I mix a beat, it becomes an instrumental because I spend a lot of time on it. Over here, some of the stuff that we haven't been using much is the Denon S3500, the I/O dock. I mean, it's just sort of sitting there. But this gets used a lot. The Control 24. People talk about these things. What are they, a glorified mouse? I'm going to let you know right now. I saw the coolest thing happen yesterday. And now I have my 002 up for sale. And I'm thinking about maybe keeping it. Because I had a session open up that was 24 channels. Okay? The 24 channels, it was more than 24 channels, excuse me. This is a 24 channel mixer. It was about 30 something channels, and all of a sudden I'm looking over here and these faders go up. So that means both sets of faders, it was using both controllers at the same time. That's nuts to me because everybody on, you know, gear sluts, oh, you can't use them together, but you can. Okay, so that's key. The one thing though is in my setup I'm thinking, okay, I can get rid of this. I have the Apogee conversion system and we're looking to get another set of converters. The reason we're going to get a set of converters is because we want to have around 24 in, 24 out, or maybe 16 in, 16 out. The reason being is because we're more of a mixing spot, and as we grow, we want to be able to utilize all the gear in the rack at the same time. Now, right now, we really don't need more ins and outs, but think about this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of equipment right there, and with the Manly, you have 9 channels. That's 9 different channels. My converters only have 8. Okay? And to add to that, there's 2 of them that are ate up by outputs. You need a speaker out, so you need a left and right out. So now you only have 6. So I have 9 pieces of equipment and only 6 inputs. Because excuse me, 6 outputs, because the other set of outputs are being utilized for my speakers. So if we actually go maybe get a Linksys Aurora setup, or maybe an 80, you know, DA16X, what we're going to get is the RME HDSP. Well, we actually just bought it, the 9652. I got it for a super deal. I'm very excited about it. But now I'm going to take this and make the 002 inactive. The only cool thing I liked about the 002, if I was over here tweaking on knobs, you know, tuning Tokyo, that's so funny. But what we would do is, say the session like stopped or I wanted to go back to a session, I could use this just like I use this. I mean, it's identical. On this, these both allow me to be real flexible as far as the controlling of the room. I mean, if you're back here working on a bass line and the bass line just decides to stop at that part, you can, you know, scroll back. The only bummer with this transport isn't as cool as this. This transport, like, you can hold it and it'll go right back to the spot. This transport, for some reason, you hold it and it skips back to the spot. It might be a setting on here, but man, I'm going to tell you right now, I never really got fully blown into the 002 because I started using the mouse more. And it was sort of weird that I did, but anyways. This is what's going on with what we have going on. The Manly's getting sent back for the side chain mod. The reason I'm telling you guys that, I'm about to go Bill Gates Jr. on you once again. But the reason I'm telling you that is because it's going to benefit you. You have a sidechain mod on a piece of equipment that was already awesome. So a sidechain mod for hip-hop. Let's explain to you what hip-hop and sidechain modding is all about. A sidechain mod allows certain frequencies to gradually get, or it sidechains out the 120 hertz, I believe, or 109 hertz or something like that Manly does. And it allows the bass instruments to pass through the compressor and not get squashed along with the rest of the material right off the bat. What does that mean? You can drive the compressor harder, you can give the compressor more gain. The other thing they're going to do when they service it is they're going to make sure that all the tubes, everything else, and everything is calibrated back to factory stock. Where, you know, these guys are the best at it. They know how to calibrate their own pieces of equipment. So I allow them to do it. It costs money, but for your sake, that's one of the last stops in my personal studio if you want me to master, if you want me to make your music sound great. It's a great investment to send your music this way. Trust me. It's going to cost me probably around between $250 and $400 to get this thing serviced, and I'm not even doing too much to it, but that's $250, $400. Think about it. I'm making the investment to make this the best spot we can possibly make. The next stop in the chain, well, be prior to that, is the Bax EQ. The dangerous Bax EQ we use a lot in the mastering. Another crucial thing for our mastering setup is these converters. I want you guys to not sleep on these. These are the 24-bit 88,000 special editions. They're old school. They're hard to find with the option I got. They have the word clock and they have the ADAT. So what I mean is the word clock, we have a Big Ben clock to it, and they have the ADAT option on the back. The ADAT option is going to allow you to go in and out of the 002. Coming up shortly, we're going to have the RME. What I want you to understand is the 002 sound quality does not have anything to do with that sound quality because we're running it digital. When you run something digital, you're bypassing the quality of another piece of equipment. So the 002 is going out. I'm sorry, the Apogee 88,000's ADAT out is going into the ADAT into the 002. The 002's out is going back into the converters. When we're running converters, you got to run them in and out. When you go into Pro Tools, you'll see ADAT options. That's the ADAT options. Do you understand what I'm saying now? So now when we're mixing or something, we're always using ADAT. We're not using analog. We're not using analog 1 and 2. Now what we plan on doing for the record is getting into this where we're going to have another set of converters. So now we're going to have 16 or 24. I think we're going to have to go, we can go with the card we bought. You can get PCI cards like RME makes that actually it'll host up to 3 ADAT 8 channels. That's 24 channels of ADAT from a PCI host card. People, I think that's pretty cool because now you're with the big boy studios and you can do it at an affordable cost, but converters cost money. I mean, you're looking at anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 for a used set of converters. So if I got 2 more, that's $4 grand. The thing is we got to compensate for that. And I don't want people to look at it like, oh, well, this is out of my budget, because we're trying to be budget friendly. That's our main goal. We want to be budget friendly. We want to work on music, but we also don't want to give away stuff and get screwed. Because, you know, when you start talking about M boxes and oh, we got this, we're doing fine. If you've never heard high-end converters, that's the mastering chain. You need a high-end clock, high-end conversion, you need a high-end compressor, and you need a high-end EQ. And that's what we've built here. Now, if you go to like Bernie Grumman Studios or Sterling Sound, they have that times 100. They have more of everything. And why I say that is because they're going to cost more than I'll ever cost right now at this given time. The reason that you go into these studios and you look at Bernie Grumman, you know, look at Brian Gardner at Bernie Gardner. It's like $2,000 odd per track. Well, Brian Gardner is amazing. I mean, the dude's amazing, and the equipment they have is amazing. It's all custom built. So yeah, you're probably going to get a little more integrity as far as that's concerned. Now, if that's not the market you're shooting for, then you should go to a person like myself. There's a lot of people out here that have smaller bass rigs that can get really close to what the big boy mastering studios do. And I don't want to discriminate against myself. The thing is you're looking at doing a whole album for around $1,000 instead of $2,000 a track. So think about that. It's a $1,000 mastering job. The reason we charge what we charge is because of what we have. Okay, you're looking at around a $20,000 setup compared to a few $1,000,000 setup when it comes to their mastering facility. And I'm not trying to like pat their back. I'm just saying I'm trying to be as real as it gets. But if you ain't got that kind of money, I guarantee you I can get close to what they're doing with what I have. And that's what's crazy about it. And I know that. And you know, when you say you get what you pay for, sometimes you get more than what you pay for. And I think that's, if you wanted to boil me down, I'm pretty much, you get a little more than what you pay for. So anyways, back to the rack. Let's talk about a few things in the rack, and then I'm going to get out of here. One of the things we purchased, because I do a little bit of recording here, is the Vintech X73i. What I found out about this preamp is it's probably one of the best sounding preamps that I've had to date as far as being able to have this clean in your face punchy sound. The key to this is to tag team it up with other things. For example, if you bought this and you have plugins, I think it would sound good with a very heavy limiting kind of plugin, or if you know how to use limiters and compressors. What I mean by that is when you have a fat sound like the Vintech, which is a very heavy fat kind of sound, when you compress that kind of sound down, the better the sound the preamp does, the better the overall quality and integrity of this. What I found out is this: I'll go in and I'll mix and make the instrumental sound the best it can, or make the music sound the best it can, and then this sort of just fits in. It's an amazing thing. It has its own space. It sounds great. Nobody complains about it. People are like, wow, dude, how'd you get my vocals like that? And that's what I want. That's what I want people to pay for. Right below that, we have the solid state alpha channels. Okay, these ones are actually a little bit affordable compared to all the other ones. If you get the X-Logic rack, you're talking a little bit more money, but these things, retail cost was around $1,000 a piece. I would highly recommend putting one of these in your rack if you can afford it. The reason being is because it actually has an AD converter built in. It's a spit-if option, spit-if out, that can go directly to like a 002 down here, and then you have a really solid front end. I just told a guy off of YouTube to purchase one, and he's a pretty cool dude, and now he's putting his up for sale on eBay. Reason being, not that he doesn't like it, he just wants to open up for some more stuff. I don't, you know, the more I thought about it, I said, we got, you know, if you have the equipment, I guess, this is a bonus. If you're doing a lot of hip-hop production, vocals and stuff like that, I would highly recommend this for instrumentals, for like you can see right here, let me show you, but if you're looking here and here, these cables actually go directly over to the Phantom X8. What that does for the Phantom X8 is absolutely amazing. If I plug the Phantom X8 in just direct, or I run it in here, there's a humongous difference in the sound quality. Okay, one of the things is the EQ. That's the EQ in. When you want to run it like a plug-in, like in and out, you just put the insert channel on. That's insert in. You see what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing. If you're running it spit-if, like when you hit the sum button, I believe, that's going to sum the two, it's going to allow you to do two different takes, like a dry signal, which is the coolest thing I've ever seen on this box. You can do a dry signal, and you can actually do like an on-dry signal. And why is that cool? Because you could EQ the crap out of something, and if you screwed up, you can have the other signal to mess with too, which you didn't EQ, which is flipping stupid. Like, that's some crazy stuff. But now I have two of them, so I have a tough time running them spit-if, so I run them through the Apogee converters. Here's the light limit mode on these things. When you light limit it, it pretty much limits it, makes a limiter up. It's sort of a peak limiter. It doesn't allow you to go over and clip the crap out of the signal. You can still have a little clipping sound if this you know, zero's like hot red. It's like a nuke red. You don't want to do that. Now here's an infamous piece of, actually two of these. These are infamous to me. I'm so glad I bought them. They're probably the least expensive thing in the rack. And, you know, sometimes you get a lot more than what you pay for, which was my theory there. The DBX 160As. This pair of these, probably, you can probably get them cheaper than I did, but around 700 and something bucks I paid for the two of them. But look at this. The DBX 160As, I used it last night on a mix, on a kick drum. I used it on a boom, like an 808. I used it on a snare drum. I used it on some strings just for some attack. The DBX 160A is probably one of the most natural sounding compressors I've ever heard as far as just being able to capture the results of what you want. This compressor can absolutely, without a doubt, be overused. If you don't know how to compress something, you can really squash the crap out of it. Unlike the Manley does this in a subtle way. Okay, it acts like the Fairchild used to act. Let me get back up in my grill. The Fairchild was infamous on the Beatles recordings, you know, Abbey Roads and all that kind of stuff. The Fairchild acts by rebiasing the tubes, which I'm not going to get all into the tech talk of this because I don't have enough knowledge to know. But what it does is gives it a gradual compression. When you A-B back and forth bypass the Manley, you'll be like, wow. Like, that's how much that did to it. It improves that sound that much more, especially going through all the tubes in there. And it gives it this fat, warm sound that you probably couldn't get with just digital, you know, just a computer. The DBX is a little bit different. The DBX gives it a tight, clean sound. I would classify it around like a solid state kind of sound, but not. Okay, if that makes any sense to anybody out there, just pay attention to me. The DBX has its own compression. Let me give a big shout out to DBX because DBX actually created compression. They're the ones that were sort of the designers behind compression. So in a sense, they probably know what they're doing. The 168, I was brought onto this by a gentleman at Sweetwater, and I was never even thinking about the 168. That's why you got to get around people. The 168, he goes, dude, bass. I said, what would you buy for a bass? Like just hip-hop bass, rock bass, guitar. He goes, DBX 160A all day. And I listened to him, and I bought 2 of them. And he was right. It sounds great on bass. Kick drums. And when you get your bass good in your mix, what that opens up is a lot of options for the other instruments. Once you get your bass right in a mix, all the other stuff can follow in. You still got to know what you're doing. You can't just start putting volumes up and think, oh, look, this one will sound good, that one will sound... No, it gives you a foundation to be able to make the right judgment based on the bass lines to compress the vocals right. Now, it's not always like that, so don't get me wrong. Like, I don't go, all right, open up the bass line, and let's just mix the bass line and the kick drums, and then let's work on the song. No, it's not like that. It's just one of those things that comes natural. You want to make sure that the bass is taken care of correctly, because you might mix a song to a too big of a bass, and what happens is now your whole song is not compressed right. You squash the crap out of the vocals. You got the mid-range just so skinny, and the highs are so skinny that you took all the bass out of the vocals just to make this bass work, and your mix is all flopped. You know, it's all crooked. But anyway, let's get out of that. The last thing that we incorporated in here that I'm going to put on this video is a thing known as a DBX patch bay. Now, it doesn't have to be DBX. DBX makes patch bays, but this patch bay allows you to patch certain things into certain things. Let me explain what a patch bay is. The outputs of your gear go on the top row, okay? That's the outputs of your gear. Now, let me explain how I have this hooked up so you can see. I'm going to take these patch cables out. I have outputs DA3. Where's that at? It's up here. In the back of this unit, that's my DA, digital to analog. I don't know if you can see it back here. But outputs DA3 back here are going directly into the back of this thing. Right in the back, on the top, okay? Because on the top, that's going to let me watch what's going to happen. The output here is going to be able to travel to any input I want. Now, why would I go right back into the converters? That'd be dumb. Well, maybe it wouldn't, you know. But let's say I want to take that output and go into the SSL in. And I can go in right down there. Okay, now why do we do that? Now, let me explain something to you so I don't confuse the crap out of you. When you have nothing patched in, outputs of your gear go here, inputs of your gear go here. Now, why do I have the Manley in at the bottom of this? Because that's the way I usually run it. I usually run the Manley 3 and 4. So what happens is, if nothing's hooked up, it goes directly down and in, directly down and in, just like I never hooked up anything. Now, if I want to route it from 3 and 4 out, or if I want to add the, you know, the DBX or something into the Manley, watch. This is DBX. You see it? You can almost see it under there. DBX. And I'm going to just run it into the Manley. And I might actually screw it up by doing this, but now I have the DBX ran into the Manley. Now, that's cool and all, but first of all, I need to have the DBX. I have to have the Manley go to the DBX. So pretty much what I want to do is have the DBX go to the Manley instead. I mean, okay, sorry, I'm confusing the daylights out of myself. The Manley out is going to go into the DBX. Okay, DBX out can go to a variety of places. It can go back into the in. You know, it can go to different sources. So what we can do is pretty much realize that the Manleys already have its input from the converters. We can go back in and just make a toggle, in a sense, going back into the converters. So it's Christmas time, people. Merry Christmas. You just learned a lot in a little given time. Bax EQ's awesome for mastering. Manley MU's awesome for mastering. Apogee converters. Oh, I forgot to show you the clock, man. Here's the Big Ben clock. If you look at this, the SPDIF, ADAT, SMUG. People ask about clocks. The clock's job is to babysit the converters. The better the clock, the better the converter can capture. It's like taking snapshots of the conversion going on. The better the clock, the more detail, the more integrity, the more stereo width, the depth. This is a hi-fi kind of thing. If I was a hi-fi studio owner, I mean like a studiophile, like a guy that just likes great sound and great systems, that would probably be at the top of my list. An Apogee Big Ben clock, or maybe one of the better, you know, one of the other alternatives. Reason being, it makes that much of a difference. There's no doubt. A great clock makes a great difference. You know what? You look at it and you're like, that's a stupid idea. Why would I want one of those? And you never get one. And then the people that buy one have like this real clean quality, and that's why we have that. That's for mastering. That's you know, great clock, great converters, great compressors, great EQs. That's a lot that goes into the mastering process. It's not all that goes into the mastering process. But then you have down here an Alesis Master Link that's like a dump bus. And I use this as like a I guess what I would call a I don't know, like a dump deck, but I'm running AES out of my converters into it, for the simple reason that I want to bypass the converters on it. And then we get a clock from the Big Ben, so it pretty much becomes like a backup unit. Or if somebody's in the studio and they're like, hey, could you just burn me that CD real quick? I'm like, yeah, let me just dump it there. I don't want to go through all the junk and then have to, you know, go over the computer and burn it and then make sure that my outputs and my levels are correct. I don't like bouncing in Pro Tools. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I would rather bounce onto that. And like a lot of people hate on those things. If you can't and you don't have a budget, SPDIF out of that to the SPDIF in of that 002 will make your 002 sound better. I'm out. Bill Gates Jr. Out.